execution is ready, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what we have here is a wolf in sheep's clothing. A crossover between two of the most cerebral series in the 3DS space. Series who should know better. Their pacing is completely different. One's a story with a peppering of rather abstract puzzles, the other's a roller coaster ride of intrigue with occasional logical inconsistencies. Realistically speaking, these should get together like oil and water, and that's before you consider the vast gulf between the two in terms of visual presentation and character design. It's insurmountable, ladies and gentlemen, simply insurmountable. All the defendants managed to do in this charade is awkwardly transition from one style of gameplay to the other, with the occasional shocking revelation or jarring glance into the quote-unquote legal system in this fantasy land. May I present Exhibit A, and I should advise those more squeamish viewers in the gallery to avert their eyes.
Please, I beg you to reconsider! I'm not...
Witches are to be cast straight into the hellfire!
Objection, Your Honor. The prosecution is misrepresenting the facts. To say that this footage is outside the bounds of good taste is simply conjecture. We're here to debate the merits of this game, not to attempt to shock the jury with lurid depictions of executions. And even so, the primary disturbing element of that footage is, it's fair to say, the defendants', or should I say victims', presumed innocence, which is certainly germane for a game that deals with the legal system, alien though it may be. In fact, whereas most other Ace Attorney games simply end their scope at the point of guilty or not guilty, this collaboration with longtime Level-5 kindred spirits Professor Layton and company present the repercussions of your actions front and center. Women presumed to be witches are being killed as a public spectacle, and the only remedy is for two great if beleaguered thinkers of portable video game heroes to reform the entire legal system, using alternating doses of puzzle solving and logical reasoning in the courtroom. Say what you will of the defense's argument that the stakes in this particular outing are much higher, the better way to show it is with mechanics of higher caliber. Simply put, the first and most glaring impediment to the Ace Attorney series is its logical linearity, which continues unabated in this offering. Your worst nightmare isn't failing to figure out whodunit, it's figuring out too early and potentially missing a logical step that the game won't let you miss. It may make perfect sense to you, and it may make sense in the end, but don't be shocked if you're denied a flawless score because you're smarter than the game lets on. On top of that, you have an utterly alien world where causality is determined entirely by a writer of fiction that becomes reality, making you question just what good your efforts will bring this otherwise fatalistic fantasy land. While the defense concludes that a swift mind can often be the downfall of an otherwise conscientious player, we insist we point out the innovations made to the mechanics of the courtroom drama. While the world outside the courts does stick rather closely to the Layton method of hint coin collecting, overland travel, and the occasional familiar puzzle interlude, Mr. Wright's escapades in the courts are much more involved this time around, with new multi-witness cross-examinations and a book of magic that provides these muggles with the information they seek regarding the spells available to the witches of Labyrinthia. Ominous name, that. It's a long, drawn-out attempt to prove the innocence of a young girl named Aspella, even more ominous that, with a story that, frankly, stands above the more disjointed case-style escapades of previous Ace Attorney titles. The defense would also like to point out that, while the graphical flourishes afforded by the 3DS aren't as polished as those in the downloadable Dual Destinies for the same handheld, that is attributable to this title actually preceding the other chronologically in terms of Japanese release. Regardless, the musical performance has certainly stepped up its game with a more orchestral take on the action-packed soundtrack to fit the fantasy setting. In the case of Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright, this court, viz. Me, finds the defendant guilty of stumbling into the pitfalls of its predecessors, only now with the added discombobulation of taking place in a world so divorced from our own understanding of the legal system, or, let's face it, any depiction of such more realistic than Judge Judy. However, mitigating factors are present, including an enrapturing storyline and the kind of absurd interpersonal comedy that only the team of Phoenix and Maya can provide, while Professor Layton and his apprentice look on in bemusement. While it might struggle to stand on its own as a crossover masterpiece, it is still a worthwhile addition to either series for fans of one, the other, or both. I find its ambition commendable, and should there be another attempt at a similar title, I should hope that it takes these proceedings to heart and uses this criticism to better itself. The defendant is found not guilty of being a feeble attempt to cash in on 2 large names in the handheld space, and this review is adjourned. All rise.